Welcome to the LudoKit Devlog. Today we're talking about promo art. We're looking at version 0.0.101, although promo art as a feature has been around in LudoKit since the very beginning because we really needed it. It was kind of one of the main reasons we decided to set off to make LudoKit. So what's the problem we're trying to solve here? You have promo art, key art, box art, whatever you want to call it. You've got some art assets with you've got a title, you've got different kinds of layers of things that you might want to mix and match, depending on the size of the image you're dealing with, or whether it's vertical or horizontal or square. Maybe some platforms have different requirements. Maybe some of them put overlays on stuff. They're just all these things that you need to deal with to then ultimately just have a ton of variations of what kind of amounts to the same dang image, just a million times with a million tiny little variations. Historically, we've just had our artist just toil away trying to get all those things generated, and it has always been tedious, but it's especially tedious when you want to update something. So for our game, How Many Dudes, we went through a really fast dev process, and so that meant we needed to update stuff really frequently, and it just instantly was something we didn't want to have to deal with anymore. And so that's why we made the promo art toolkit in LudoKit. So let's get into how it works. So the gist is we've got all these different sections for the different kinds of promo art that you need. LudoKit's already set up all the templates for you, so LudoKit knows how big they're supposed to be and knows if they should be downloaded as a JPEG or a PNG. If they have a specific naming format that is required, then it makes sure that it gives you that too. It does all that kind of stuff for you. And then if you've got different languages, so in our case we have How Many Dudes, our title is translated into a few languages. So if we flip it over to simplified Chinese, then you can see all of our titles swap out with the Chinese version. So again, once you add languages in all this too, the complexity just explodes so fast, and we needed a way to handle that. So let's just flip back to English so I can tell what I'm looking at. And basically the way this works is we give you all these templates and a very simple editor interface with previews and all that good stuff so that you can basically pop in, upload your various art components, so your title art, your background images, you're separated if you want to, foreground images, and then you can basically kind of just tweak each one as needed. And so I'll just show you that in action real quick with the soundtrack art, because that's the thing that I need to make right now. So you can see I've got the Steam soundtrack section, and so we can get this thing populated. All right, so the idea here is pretty straightforward, is once you already have some kind of box art composed, you don't want to have to go recompose something that's almost the same. It's always the same parts, just then scaled and kind of moved around a little bit. And so you want to be able just to go right to the thing that you need. So I'm gonna close up this Steam section up here and look at the Steam demo, because the art assets that I need for the Steam soundtrack are just a subset of what we use for the Steam demo, but they also has the same issue of this dumb little thing that Steam insists on putting up in the corner, taking up a huge amount of your real estate for your artwork, especially on the small capsule. And we've already got a good kind of layout for dealing with this. There's a little bit of an overlay there, but we've already got a pretty good layout for this. So rather than trying to rebuild that from scratch, I'm just going to drag this thing down here, and drop it. And that will basically clone it. And now this I can edit independently. It's already got all the parts in it, and since these are set up in layers, then I can go in and I can just kind of tweak each one and move it around. But also it's kind of a pain to drag stuff, so I can also just eyedropper it, and then kind of scroll back down here and then paste it, and then scroll back up, grab this guy. Oops, I don't want to paste that. Good thing there's a confirmation there. Let's copy that one, stick that one there. And now I've already got drafts of my soundtrack art. Of course, this is just showing the title of the game, so now I need to get in here and edit these things to add another layer to get the title of the OST onto this guy. So we pop this open, you can see the editor, and you can also see the preview. So any of the promo templates that have basically a really specific kind of place in which they show up, we've got previews for, so that you can see what it'll look like in the actual context. And it updates in real time as we tweak stuff here. So that way you can get a sense of how it's going to look as you're building it out. And again, you can also flip languages. So this is now only showing me languages in which I have layers that have different languages. So our title art has variants in these 4 languages. So if I flip between them, I can see what it's going to look like. And this, by default, all the different language variants just live in exactly the same place as the original. They just basically draw themselves inside the same bounding box. But because, like sometimes they're taller if you have to add more stuff or whatever, they don't have the same aspect ratio. And so if you wanted to come in here and just tweak something and say, ooh, I want this Chinese one to be a little bit higher, then you can see once I've done this, then now I've decoupled it. So you can see here it says only changing for this one. And so if I were to come back here and move the English one somewhere, then Korea would move too, Russian move too, but now this got decoupled and is doing its own thing. And I can reset that and make it go back to where it was if I want to. So that way you can do those little final, again, the idea here is to be able to just as quickly as possible come in, slap your art together, and then just make those little adjustments. For a full-fledged artwork, you'd want to be able to do that, in a real art program. This isn't a real art program. This is just meant for fast mixing and matching. So anyway, we got this thing in here, and now we need to add this new title. So I'm going to create a new layer. We've got all this block, all these are our achievement icons because the achievements use the same editor to do this kind of stuff. And we need a new image. Hopefully I haven't revealed anything private here with all these titles. All right, so we've got soundtrack text. We can see it down here. This is truly enormous, so we're going to upload this as a smaller scale so that taking up less bandwidth and so that things render faster. And I'm going to change this image type to a title because when LudoKit knows what the kind of image the image is, then it can do a better job of trying to automatically place things for you when you're copy pasting and stuff. All right, so I'll upload that. Did it. I'm going to select it, and now we've got this new layer. So that's easy. We'll just kind of shove it over here, kind of down in the middle, something like this, nice and big, because it's it's what this is actually about. This is actually about the soundtrack and just sort of about the original game. And then we can see what that's going to look like. Well, it looks pretty good, right? Something like that. Good enough. Maybe we'll center that horizontally or vertically. What is it? Is this vertical? Whatever. Horizontally centered. Yeah, cool. I did it. I'm going to call that good enough, and now I can go back to the rest of the promo art, and it also remembered where I was on the page, so I don't have to go look around for this stuff. I guess it almost found where I was on the page. So now here's our official game soundtrack. Now let's go get the hair capsule. So same deal, insert that in there, and you can see how it scaled this thing to fit. So title art, it basically tries to kind of fit and take up a lot of space, and that way you can, because it usually needs to be big, but you're always going to scale it to whatever size you actually care about. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit because again, this is about the soundtrack. This isn't really about the game. That way it's also not being overlaid by this thing. Make this nice and big so you can see it. Because also this is the 920 by 430. It's relatively small. It only shows up kind of in this area. So we want to make sure that this is big enough that people can see it and they can see that the focal point is about the art. Let's kind of center this way a little bit, and that looks good. And then we can also flip through and just make sure nothing looks really dumb in a different language. Call that good enough. So now I got that one square, and we can pop back out. And then we can go to the small capsule. And again, it's just the same deal, easy peasy. And so I could have done this the other way, where I could have, originally I copied stuff over from the demo for each of these 3 different images, but what I could have done is just copied the first one over, added the soundtrack layer to it, and then copied that one over. But then I would probably have to adjust more positions of things, and so this I thought would probably be easier to do. But yeah, same deal here. We'll just kind of scale this thing down, something like this, and this is now slightly too big, so we'll just kind of do that. Give it a little bit of nice padding. Then we can see down here, this is what it's going to look like in context, right? So it's kind of hard to see. We need pretty big text on this, so this is kind of as big as we can get it given how horizontal that is. Maybe we should have gone with just OST, but then people probably don't know what that means, so we'll just survive with the choices that we're making. Yeah, I think you can probably read that, more or less. Yeah, I think so. Maybe we'll make this a little bit bigger and kind of a little, not quite center, but just kind of get it over here. Something like this. Yeah. So then we got this done. It's all ready to go. Make sure we didn't get that's getting a little snug there. It's getting a little snug. Okay, yeah, we'll just shrink it down in, if I hold down Control, it'll center it. It's flashing a lot right now. I think it's because I'm doing screen recording, but it might also be something I have to look into and fix. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So yeah, so now I've kind of decoupled all the languages because they, in this tiny, tiny constrained little mini image, they need some extra space. All right, let's see how does that look. That looks probably make this bigger. That's too big. Okay. Flip through, make sure nothing is too absurd. We probably didn't make it that small. We can let it tuck underneath that thing a tiny bit. Okay, and then same to here. Probably got a little carried away there. There we go. Yeah, right? Call that good enough. So now we've got all of our art. So you can see it took a sec to pop up. It does a lot of caching and stuff to try to be relatively well behaved. So now I've got all of my artwork that I need for this. And the next move is to upload it. So now if I download, then I'm going to get a really useful zip file, assuming this doesn't die. I might have broken something. Let's do a little quick refresh, just in case all these edits got things a little out of hand. Download. There it is. I was just making changes to this just a moment ago, so I probably made something a little bit fragile. Okay, so if I go find this file, then, or this, the zip file that got downloaded, it looks like this. So here are all those images, and you can see it's the 3 different images. It's got the capsule, the header capsule, the main capsule, and the small capsule, named after the OST, so we know what it is. And that way, if you downloaded everything, then you wouldn't have files clobber each other. And it ends with the language names that Steam expects, so that Steam can automatically assign these to the right language. And Steam also uses the size of the image to decide what kind of an image it is. So now you can see this also gives you a link so that we're already ready to go. So I'm going to go pop out of full screen mode. So then if I open up my store assets, which I probably should have middle clicked on, bloop. Stop that little travel there. Then now I'm in my back end, which means I can go in and upload these things. So basically I just have to drop all these same images that I just uploaded over here, and then I've done it. So I'm going to just select them off screen over here and drag them over and drop. And then we can see Steam automatically categorized things to the right language. So you can see there's Korean, there's Russian, there's English, there's simplified Chinese. It correctly categorized the small capsule and the main capsule. Unfortunately, Steam can't differentiate between 2 kinds of images that are actually of the same size. And for the case of your soundtracks, that's even sillier because there actually isn't a library header for soundtracks. So, Steam could have done something that worked here, but whatever. It's a relatively easy fix to do this kind of stuff. So now we've got everything already mapped up to languages. Basically, everything's already handled, and we can just, we have a little quick verification, so we can make sure that that's true. You can see the little banner is gone because that's just shown in the preview on LudoKit. It doesn't actually get exported. And then we can just upload it and see all of our stuff. And then Steam's like, hey, are you sure that you did things correctly? Does it have a legible logo? It looks legible to me. Doesn't have a text besides the game's logo. I mean, it's also the soundtrack logo, but it's got to have that in there, so I feel like that makes sense. And of course, these also look funny by themselves because the reason that they're positioned like this is because the banner goes on here. And that's part of why it's really nice to have that preview that shows you where the banner is going to be, because you actually have to make it so it looks a little funny in the absence of the context of that banner. Legible logo should fill at least 1/3 of the image. Ooh. Collectively, I feel like that's a third. I'm about to come back here and update this. But the nice thing about this is that it's so easy to update it. I can just go back over, tweak them, download that thing, drag drop all the files again, and then I did it. So again, that's the main reason we wanted to do something like this, so we can just really easily update stuff if we needed to. Confirm and upload, and then we did it. We did the job. It's all done. I guess now it's Steam's job, so we're waiting for it to wrap up. But you don't need to see that really. That's just going to upload. So who cares? All right. So that's the idea for all this stuff, and it's we can probably flip through just a couple others so you can see what the other ones look like. So here's our other previews. Hey, look at that. You know, it's like, again, you get to see what all this kind of stuff is going to look like in context, which is very, very helpful for making sure that you build your stuff correctly. And then again, we got these overlays and all this other stuff just built in for you to make all that stuff work. So that is the Promo Art Gallery in a nutshell. I didn't mention how we deal with, actually before I end this, let me just show that real quick. So if I do want to have variants for languages, if I scroll down here and grab this how many dudes title, basically when you upload something into your image library, it just kind of goes in and it assumes it's in your default language for your game. But if you need to add variants for different languages, you can just do that. So down here, you can see I've got our original English one, then we've got the simplified Chinese version, then we've got the Russian version, blah, blah, blah. And then I could also upload other ones if I wanted to. And so then LudoKit knows what language they are because you told it what language it is. And so it just automatically swaps things out as needed when you're working through stuff. And also you can always download everything to get it back. And that way it also serves as a nice little library of all of the images that you need. And since you can also download it as a PSD, then if you need to hand off something again to somebody else, you can just say, hey, here's a PSD with all of the different languages in it for something. And similarly, you can also download any of these things. If we go back in the editor, then you can download this thing as a oh yeah, I forgot. I changed the icon. I got confused. It's this icon. So it used to just be a download button. Now it's an image download button. So you can download this thing as a PNG, as a PSD, or as a zip file. So if you do it as a zip, it's basically just each of the individual images that make this thing up. If you download it as a PSD, if you download it as a zip file, it's all of the different language variants. If there's more than one, if there's only one, then it's just one image in their zip file. If you just do a PNG, it's just basically what you're looking at. So if you switch languages and then switch over to Chinese. So if you switch languages and then download, it'll just be that one. If you download as a PNG. And also as you flip through here, you'll notice that in some places, instead of seeing PNG, you're going to see JPEG. And it's basically because, again, the LudoKit knows what kinds of images are expected for each of the different ones, and so it just gives you the correct download. But if you do download the PSD, then all of the layers that you had constructed in here are now in the PSD, in the same size and the same positions and all that kind of stuff. And so we make use of that for stuff where we need to do some final touch-ups, have something that we need a real art program for, or when we need to hand stuff off to marketing teams and people who want to be able to have something they can make a lot more changes to. And we found this to be a really convenient way to be able to do that, is just download stuff as a PSD, hand it off, and we did it. Okay, so I think that is pretty much the summary of where things are with the Promo Art editor in LudoKit. If you are interested in testing this thing out, we're in pre-alpha. This is all just rapidly being developed. It's all in a prototype state kind of all the time. We're building it for our own purposes while we're getting ready to deploy our next game. And so we're using it to help us support that game launch. And once we're done with this game launch, we'll continue working on LudoKit so that we can keep making it better for our next game. And so that's why we're also opening up as a thing that other people will be able to use. But right now, only kind of in a testing capacity. So if you're game to try out experimental software, then want to try this thing out, head to ludokit.com, and from there you will find links to the Discord and newsletter sign up and all that good stuff. But most stuff happens in the Discord. So if you join the Discord, then I'll periodically do calls for more testers, and then you could hop in and give it a shot. So with that, good luck with whatever your promo art stuff is, and goodbye.